there, and welcome everyone to a special edition of the Because Cannabis podcast. My name is B.C. Wehman. You know we have brand new episodes every single Wednesday, 4:20 p.m. on YouTube, every Thursday on Spotify with video, as well as anywhere that you listen to your audio podcast. One of the things we have been covering the last few weeks on the show, in addition to our amazing programs like Budding Minds with Andrew D'Angelo and our upcoming episode 100 with a very special guest. We've been talking a lot about issue 2 in Ohio. And issue 2 has changed or could change dramatically, including today when this video airs, which will be Thursday, December 7th. Could be a big day for Ohioans. And I wanted to update you with where issue 2 was, where it could be, and how you can help make your voice known. I have a voice right now because I have a microphone and I have a camera, and I need to say that what I think the Ohio leadership, what I think Governor Mike DeWine, what I think the insulting, offensive comments that Ohio Senate President Matt Huffman said to Ohioans, that we don't know what we're voting for, that we don't really understand what's in these legal ballots that we're voting for. Malarkey. What you are doing is taking the will of the people and smashing it down, stepping your foot on it. And it should be unacceptable. We don't want this. It's not what we voted for. Give us what we voted for. And what did you vote for, Ohio? What did you vote for when it came to issue 2? Let's walk through that. Let's talk about what issue 2 was and what issue 2 could be in the state of Ohio in the coming weeks as we get forward to launch. So we know that on November 7th, Ohioans voted issue 2 becoming, yes, by margin of 57 to 43%, becoming the 24th state to have adult use in Ohio. This ballot initiative would give us home grow. It would give Ohioans possession in regulations up to 2.5 ounces of cannabis and a whole lot of other rules that would be decided as the program went along. And during the slideshow, we'll talk through some of the areas you see on screen, some definitions, some of the protections, some of the confidentialities, and probably some of the financial and tax information that issue 2 had. First and foremost, issue 2 was going to define adult use cannabis. It's important because we have industrial hemp, we have medical marijuana, and each of them, by definition, in Ohio's revised code, should have a definition. So that's okay. We're going to define cannabis. We were going to create a new subsection of the revised code, which would probably then go into OAC 3796, possibly, which oversees the medical program right now in Ohio. It was also going to establish a division of cannabis control. And if you are a fan of the show, you know right now that your boy, BC, should be overseer of the DCC. That's right. I am putting my name out there. It's not something that you can vote for, but if you keep telling DeWine and if you keep telling Huffman and if you keep telling your representatives that you want someone that understands their world and your world as the overlord of Ohio cannabis, that's a new name I'm calling it, DCC, vote BC. BC Wehman is charge of the DCC. That's what I'm going for there. We're trying to make that happen. But it was going to establish a division of cannabis control, which would help regulate and oversee the entire program. It was going to legalize, regulate the cultivation, the possession, the sale, the purchasing, the possession, the home grow, which was going to be 6 plants per adult, a maximum of 2 adults, basically a maximum of 12 plants per household, as well as creating additional protections for individuals who engage in adult use. It was going to work with financial institutions to encourage them to allow banking initiatives. One of the issues that happens in finances with cannabis is because of IRC 280E, because of cannabis's federal illegality. It's very difficult to have a bank account. It's very difficult to do standard financial matters or take tax deductions or anything that other small business and large business operators can do. And so it was going to hopefully put some safeguards, some safety guides, some guidelines, I'll get the word eventually, right, in there to help people understand and be able to have financial and responsible banking in our state. It was going to work with a couple of departments, including the mental health and addiction services, hopefully creating some more programs to educate people about what cannabis can and can't be for certain folks in our country and in our state. One of the things it was going to do was add a 10% tax Now, we should say you may see that 10% tax number and be a little confused. Every state that has adult use has an excise tax. An excise tax used to be called a sin tax, but that has a bit of a moralistic clause to it. So an excise tax is simply a tax placed on items deemed hazardous or dangerous. Don't get upset by that. You pay it every day on gasoline. You pay it on propane. You pay it on tobacco. You pay it on alcohol. You pay it on firearms and ammunition. You pay it on a lot of things. And they were going to add this 10% excise tax. You pay it on the lottery. They were going to add this 10% excise tax to the state. And you can see the breakdown on screen that they wanted to do as part of that program. Go with 36% to the Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Fund, 36% to host cannabis community facilities funds, 25% to the Substance Abuse and Addiction Fund, and 3% to the Division of Cannabis Control, of which I would get to play with all of that money. Probably not, but one of these days we'll get there. So that was what they were looking at as a program. And you can see there really important aspects that they were going to do with that money. But as we know, things change, right? As we know, some things eventually change. And so one of the things with ballot initiative states is the government does have the right to go in and make changes to that through their legislative measures. I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. They have the ability to go through and do that. And so there's been a few recent bills, one of them probably picking up the most traction, House Bill 86, though 354 just introduced. And we'll see what that does. So let me help explain those real quick. I want to give a shout out, and you can find links to them in the descriptions below. Jesse Balmert with Cincinnati Enquirer is doing some amazing reporting. Of course, Gabriel Dion, past guest of the show from MedicateOH.com. And we love the folks over at Ohio Cannabis Live and what they're doing. Once again, you can find descriptions to their shows in the description below. Once you hit that subscribe button, then you can find those links and be on your way. All right. So one of the things that was going to first start, there was an initial House bill, which was really just about moving money around to different law enforcement agencies. But it didn't last very long, quickly replaced by Gary Click, a Republican who put in House Bill 341. And really all 341 did was look at the financial tax money and reallocate it. So, initially the 97%, as we just showed on the last slide, 2 slides ago, was going to go 36% cannabis social equity, 36% host community, 25% substance abuse funds. He takes that same 97% and breaks it down into 5 categories. And now we're looking at 19.4% for the Cannabis Social Equity Fund, 19.4 for host community, 19.4 for substance abuse, 19.4 for substance abuse addiction, and then 19.4 for a law enforcement cannabis training fund. And then finally, that 3% for the DCC. So that was the initial bill. It got a little bit of traction when it was first launched. Some people got frustrated with kind of the reallocation of money, but it really wasn't changing the major directives of the program until recently. And now you can see what's happening. Most recently, we had issued or put out there by Senator Rob McCauley. Senator Rob McCauley is a Republican, and he put out this revision, which was going to, in House Bill 86, which is being debated right now, it was going to eliminate home grow. Once again, issue 2 allowed 6 plants per person, 12 per household. It was going to eliminate home grow. It was going to raise the excise tax from 10% to 15%. So tax you 5% more at the register. It was going to add a wholesale tax on of 15%. Which is what cultivators pay. So they double dip the taxes on the customer end and on the cultivator end for that. It was then going to take 45% and put it into an initial general Ohio revenue fund, 30% into law enforcement training, 15% into substance abuse prevention program, 10% to safe drivers. Rob McCauley, 10% to safe drivers. You want to put 10% of, say, $200 million to teach people how to drive better, yet we know that by and large, alcohol has a huge issue with causing accidents. Cannabis does not, yet still, that's not the kind of money you're putting towards education when it comes to drivers. Maybe we're going to put some of those signs on those little billboards down the road. I don't know if I'm buying 10% to Safe Drivers Fund, Rob McCauley. And then you saw Look at the 97% that was going to be separated between those different groups. Now, 45% of it just goes to a general fund, which has no real specific allocation and can be used for things that you have way less knowledge and understanding of. It's typical political bumbo jumbo by just mixing up the pot and making it more confusing for you, the voter who understood issue 2, understood it fully, and voted for it as is. Issue 2 was also going to reduce the maximum amount of THC to 25% for plant material and 50% for your extracted material. Now, issue 2, to put it understanding. So what happens initially in a lot of states, they do a THC cap, meaning the amount of highest THC sold is a certain number. In Ohio's medical marijuana program, it's 35% THC. Now, you can test a little higher THCA in some other areas, but in that THC testing, it needs to be 35%. To be qualified for industrial hemp, you have to test less than 0.3% THC. That's how you become CBD, CBG, and those other cannabinoids that aren't considered Delta-9 THC. And issue 2, interestingly enough, set what I like to call a minimum maximum, meaning it's stated that the state of Ohio must select a maximum THC percentage number, but the minimum that number could be is 35%, meaning it had to be higher than 35%. And in this bill, they want to make the highest amount of THC purchase for adult use level at 25%, which is a laughable miscalculation and misunderstanding of the modern consumer of the plant. Do you want to drive black market sales? Do you want people to get in their car and go to Michigan? Rob McCauley, Mike DeWine, Matt Huffman, is that where you want them to do? Because that's what this will do. You will create crime. You will create problems, all because you're meddling. You're meddling with things you didn't need to. It was also going to reduce possession. Remember, 2.5 ounces initially. Now it's down to 1 ounce. Apparently, they want to even measure in milliliters any amount of THC you have. House Bill 86 allows for smoking in private residences. It was going to enforce Ohio's current public smoking ban. It was also going to allow apartment owners a little bit more leeway in deciding if people can consume cannabis on the property. Cannabis people seem to think that if you put an orange slice on a product, every child's not going to understand that there are orange slices in there. You know who else puts orange slices on their product and kids still don't eat it? Vitamins, right? They do it all the time, folks. People don't eat things just because it has a bear or a fruit on it. But I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to protect the children. So they always put these allocations in there for advertisements and whatnot. House Bill 86 also offered zero protection. Zero. And one of the big parts of issue 2 was confidentiality and various protection agreements for employees in the state of Ohio. Issue 2 goes right back and gives control back to the big businesses and say you are allowed to refuse someone for consumption of marijuana. You're allowed to ban marijuana as a substance. It was going to allow municipalities, local municipalities, to have bans on cultivators and processors and dispensaries, but not on consumption, which, you know, that's a pretty standard thing. If we're being very honest here, that's a fairly normal thing. Right now in Ohio's medical program, municipalities have the right to refuse. Where I live, you can't have any. Down the road, you can, 5 minutes away, because it's a different city. So that's pretty normal. And the fact that they can't ban consumption was a nice addition in there. But once again, giving more power back to government entities. It was also going to lower the amount of potential adult use dispensaries from 350, which issue 2 stated, to 230. And just for point of reference, there are currently 114 medical marijuana dispensaries operating in the state of Ohio. So this would give us about double the amount of dispensaries we currently have. It was also going to put new restrictions on Delta-8 and other legal cannabinoid type products, not including CBD, mostly the legal cannabinoids, which start as plant material and then they spray distillate on it after it tests at 0.3% to create a bit of a legal loophole that D8, D10, and all those other THC alphabets are. So it was going to get into there. And then clearly, as you can see, no social equity was mentioned at all of part of House Bill 86. So there's where we sat, and that was a new one. But we did just have recently House Bill 354. House Bill 354 was recently announced, and that one is brought to us by Northeast Ohio Representative Jamie Callender. He's out of Concord, and he went ahead and said, look, I know what Ohio votes. I know we have to make some changes, but he put in a new one that retained home grow. It retained the 2.5 ounce possession, and it retained the THC minimum maximum of 35. It will maintain the current public and private smoking bans that are in the state of Ohio, which is pretty standard. It was also going to do the ban of, the cartoon, the bears and fruit. They're really mad about that fruit. It was going to also allow the ban of employees and things like that. But what it wanted to do additionally, and here's the big point about it, is add a bigger tax. It was going to do a bigger tax. It was going to take a 20% tax, keep the 10% tax excise, and make a 10% wholesale tax. So way less than what you are looking for in House Bill 86. So that's kind of the three major initiatives that are out there. House Bill 86 seems to be the most heavily debated and argued right now. 354 is a little better. But what you want to do today, right now, upon watching this, is get in touch with your representatives. There's going to be a list of information on screen in the description. There's a bunch of names on screen right now of folks that you can reach out to, their phone numbers, their email addresses, and you can tell them. You can probably find Mike DeWines. You can probably find Matt Huffman's, and you can tell them, I read my ballot. I understood what I wanted to vote for. I understood what I was trying to do when I voted yes for issue 2. And I would super appreciate it if you would respect what I did. If you would, Mike DeWine, if you would, Matt Huffman, if you would, Senator McCauley, if you would respect the will of Ohioans and what they did. So that's your issue 2 update. We're going to find out during our live stream episode tonight at 4:30 p.m. with Tim Johnson exactly what that decision is. We're going to react to it live. So join us 4:30 p.m. today, Thursday, December 7th, for a live reaction to the most up-to-date issues of issue 2. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe, like, and all that good jazz. Check us out. Tons of great content on YouTube at Because Cannabis on social media, or at Meet WM. Have a great week, everyone.